What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we break down the latest and greatest cybersecurity news, as well as highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who have made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and today, as always, I'm joined by Shannon Tynes.
What's up? What's up?
And LeVon Maynard.
What up?
What's going on? So, not much has changed. Same Monday through Friday. Listeners will have noticed that on Wednesday we had Ask a CISP in the in between episodes, so we're going to keep that going. Give us your feedback. Let us know what you if you like the new schedule where we do 2 topics, Ask a CISP, then a discussion, and then obviously we do the weekly rundown. So a little plug for the schedule for the rest of the week, as well as seeking your feedback, just so we can continue to improve the show, and you guys can continue to like, share, hit the bell if there's a bell involved or whatever to follow us, and just give us your questions and any comments you have. So with that being said, topic 1 for this week will be the FBI and all that good stuff that Shannon's about to break down to us.
All right. So this is actually an article from zdnet.com written by Danny Palmer. The title of the article is "The FBI Removed Hacker Backdoors from Vulnerable Microsoft Exchange Servers. Not Everyone Likes the Idea." Now, that is exactly how it sounds, right? Like the FBI went and removed these vulnerable Microsoft Exchange server vulnerabilities, right? Now, what they don't tell you is that they went in, well, what they don't tell you in the title, they tell you in the article, is that they went in without the knowledge of the companies to do this, and they actually had a court order to do so, okay? So I have said this in the past, right? Like I'm one of those, and I realize I'm in the minority on this, right? I'm one of those that I don't mind, our government jumping in every once in a while, like, catching some terrorists or doing whatever, without having a court order or whatever it may be. But this one seems like it could be a bridge too far, at the risk of putting myself on the wrong side of the FBI, right? Like, FBI, don't come get me. I'm not doing anything crazy, but this is
he's where speaking for himself.
Yes, I'm speaking for me. I'm speaking for me. Yes. but so this one, I realized the intention of what they did, and again, they got a court order to do it, which is kind of the scarier part to me, right? So like, I don't want to sit here and say, okay, the FBI went rogue, right? Because they had the legal obligation to do so because they requested it. But do companies actually want this, right? So the NCSC over in the UK, they went in and did the same thing, but they asked the company's permission, right? Now, I think if we would have done that, if the FBI would have done that here in the States, I think they would have gotten a lot more cooperation than what they thought they were going to get, which is probably why they did it this way in the middle of the night, so to speak. You know what I mean? To go in and fix these vulnerabilities that came out from last month, I think it was, or whatever. But it's one of those things where I'm very leery of this, right? Because not only did the FBI go in there and remove these shells that were the vulnerabilities that came out for this, they didn't even patch anything on the way out, right? So your good intentions that you got this court order under, you went in there and said, hey, for the good of the nation, for cybersecurity, because that's the FBI's mission, right? It's for the betterment of our nation. We want to go in here and fix this and make sure these companies are not held liable. Now, I haven't seen anywhere where they said this was just companies that are tied to, national defense or anything of that network or of that nature, right? Which I could probably understand a little bit more, right? If you had a company that has a contract or something with the Department of Defense, you know what I mean, or different government organizations, I can see it being a little bit different, right? Because you're like, okay, we need to protect our resources, but when you're going into private companies, it's a little bit different, right? And it just has that stink of conspiracy to it, right? You don't need to be giving anybody else any feeling that there's some type of conspiracy going on, that the FBI is going in here and doing whatever, right? Because there are still to this day companies that don't even know that they went in there and did it, right? So because they didn't patch on the way out, right? So it's not like your IT team comes in and sees, oh, who patched this? And they have to ask around the office, right? Like, did you patch it? Did you patch it? Did you patch it? And that kind of gives it away, right? They didn't do anything different. They just removed the possible vulnerability that companies at present were not fixing anyway, and then left it in the same vulnerable state, You know what I mean? Like you didn't do anything to fix, because Microsoft provided the fix to you, right? They got it out quick. Said, hey, here it is. We're apply this right here. So I don't know. I'm a little hesitant to say that this is a good thing. You know, and again, I'm the Patriot Act guy, right? Like bring those terrorists down. You know what I'm saying? But Ryan, what's your feeling on this, man?
So I kind of like I don't want to be a fence rider, but I like to argue both sides of this because it is
That's right.
super interesting to me, right? Part number one, how do they know that they're there? Like, who is reporting to them that their vulnerabilities are out there? Like, what monitoring tools, software, what partnerships do they have where they're being told? I assume it's through the parent of the vulnerable system. I would assume that they're reporting like, hey, these are the organizations that are affected, to give them some kind of visibility. It would be my assumption. I don't think the FBI has uh, some kind of SolarWinds or What's Up Gold or whatever that sees everybody's vulnerabilities. So there's some partnership there, which makes me feel a little bit more at ease with it. Like then obviously due to our more proactive stance in the federal government, we're trying to make sure that we push those Terrys out of our system. That was a what's called it Key and Peele reference with the Terrys. So there seems to be some good, like that's the good part. I like that they went in there, they saw that these web show, how do they describe them as hundreds of unmitigated web shows have been identified and removed from hundreds of systems. So you have the federal government, you have the Department of Justice, and then you have the FBI, all doing things proactively to remove these abilities for bad actors to do remote administration of public and private sector systems. My problem, though, would be obviously you have to disclose a little bit more how this monitoring stuff is working, because that makes me nervous. Because the assumption is good and it's a partnership. But B, my other problem with it would be you having access to my system. Like, how do they get in? Is the question. Like, I realize that they can't reveal that probably, because then you would be letting other nation states know what tools we have at our disposal to get into systems. So because it doesn't just say what's the term I'm looking for? Defense systems. It actually does say private. It said through our private and defense partnerships. But like you said, some companies didn't even know they came in. So like that's a crazy partnership if you didn't notify them on the way out. Like, hey, we touched your systems in some way. So that makes me nervous because it seems surgical, right? So like to go in there and to be able to get into someone else's system, to be able to remove the web shows and other vulnerabilities, pretty slick. I don't think they can patch, only because patches have to be vetted by a company, so you don't go in and break their systems. So that would make sense to me. I can't patch your system. Maybe you need that Windows XP server to be running on your back end, or else it'll disrupt your systems.
But isn't that all the more reason for them to have did it like the NCSC did it, and just ask for the cooperation, right? Because then everybody's working together. And you can say, hey, look, we can make this work. We'll go in there, remove it, and fix it for you at no charge to you, because the FBI went and did this for free anyway, right? They didn't charge these companies to go and do it. So it's a service that's provided because they're the FBI. They're not for profit, right? They don't need to make money back on doing this. The manpower is paid for in tax dollars that we're going to pay regardless. You know what I'm saying? So
I don't disagree with that at all. But I think maybe this is a proactive move because the companies are moving too slow to remove vulnerabilities, like because they might not have the tools to remove without patching, like because the patch will be the cure. The patch will get rid of the vulnerability as well as keep it from coming back. This seems very, very surgical. It's like we can go in and we can remove it. When it comes to patching, you're going to do that on your own. Like, we just want to make sure that the bad actors can't remotely administer whatever it may be. Like my guess it wouldn't be mom and pop organizations. I think that this will probably be things that have to do with people's personal identifiable information, banking, like things to do with infrastructure, like because I can't believe that they have a big enough department to canvas everybody. So they probably hit the big hitters. the most vulnerable that would make us the most vulnerable. You know what I mean?
I
I think
think
that's what their intent was.
I think they
It's
mentioned
very
in
1984-ish.
I think they actually mentioned in the article it was some Fortune 500 companies in there or something like that, right? Or maybe I read it somewhere else. I
Right.
can't remember. Yeah,
So it has its pros and its cons, but if you did this in the UK, it would be they would flip their lid. They would go crazy. They'd be like, "Why are you crossing borders, doing stuff in our systems?" So that's where that partnership with the NTSC probably came from. Like they can do what we can do, but obviously they had to ask permission. But here in America, there's some EULA or something written, and maybe the Patriot Act or some other like the FISMA rules, maybe I don't know. Because if it had anything to do with like PCI DSS or I don't know, like whatever they call it, HIPAA now, high tech, I think is the bigger umbrella. Like if it has to do with those, I think the government can put their hands in things to ensure that they're secure, or they can fine you and things of that nature. So maybe it's been expanded. Maybe they can actually also touch your system to a lesser extent. But yeah,
I
I need way more information.
no, for sure, because they didn't spill out everything in this article here, right? I think they did it because they know that people aren't really paying attention to it, though. That's the thing, right? So
That's also true.
maybe
Yeah.
in the UK people are paying closer attention to stuff like this, but in America, nah, we don't care unless if they'd have put it on TikTok, yeah, we would have cared then, right? But it wasn't on
Right.
TikTok or social media, so
Right.
we didn't care about it. You know what I'm saying? So I think that may be a difference as well, and I think the FBI probably knew that going in. You know what I mean? They're like, hey, we're going to ask for this court order, but it's not like we're going to broadcast it on. I know they don't have court TV anymore. Or, those shows that show like all the
Right.
court stuff all the time. It was court TV or whatever it was, whatever the network was. Used to show trials all the time. That's probably not even a thing anymore. But there's no ratings in that. There's no flash and pizzazz, so you don't make it anymore. But yeah, I 100% believe that they were like, we can do this, get in, get out, do it, and there will be very minimal backlash to it. You know what I mean? Because if I'm being honest, like this was the only site I saw it on. I do my fair share of review of what's going on in the world, looking at other bigger news networks, and this did not register unless I somehow missed it. I'm not saying I read every article, but I see most headlines, right? And it did not even register.
No, it didn't pop up on national news either, or national news, I guess, whatever silo you feed into CNN or Fox or whatever, because I watch news on AFN, so they try to give you all the major news networks, which all conflict with one another, but none of them brought this up recently. Maybe next week it'll be something, but again, like I always feel like I'm on the fence. I don't mind when this is being done to other people, like the whole Big Brother thing does not bother me. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's very Orwellian, you know what I mean? But if it's done to me, I got a problem with it. So if I were the CISO or the CIO of one of these corporations, I would take some pause. Like first, I should have probably passed the stuff if I could. Again, some people can't. But if I exist and you did this over my head, I'd be like, oh, wait a minute. I don't like any part of that.
But here's the thing, right? So the hope is that the CISO or whoever, VCISO, whatever, would have presented this option already, because this is something that happened a month and a half ago, something like that, when all this kicked off. Like it was at least in March, I want to say. I'm trying to remember the time frame, but like it was a while ago. So if you as a CISO, you should not be butthurt about this right now, because you should have presented this to your bosses or to whomever, right? Your CIO, COO, whomever, however your structure is in your company, even if it's a little mom and pop spot, the owners, right? To say, hey, this is out there, but this is something. And you know what? I can't even say that, because it's not like Microsoft was charging you for this fix either. You know what I mean? So like, I there's no reason. Like if it wasn't done, this is a free fix that was offered out there. Microsoft makes it available. If you have their products, you have access to this fix for the price you've already paid for the product that you're using. So I don't even, I'm going to take back what I said, because there's no reason for us to let it go on this long. You know what I mean? It should have been done already.
Yeah, unless you have a EOL system, like there's still those end of life systems that they just can't, or they can't afford to replace, or they believe the risk is worth it. Again, if you're a bank, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, and you're using one of these EOL systems, you get compromised. It's on you. But as for the CEO or the COO or whomever is on top to take that risk on. So it really is like if he says, "Hey, if we patch this, it's going to bring us down for X amount of time. We're going to lose X amount of dollars." You might be like, "Nah, we're going to do that a little bit later. Maybe we'll wait another month, and they'll still be vulnerable, right?" But now the FBI came in. The FBI swooped in and potentially removed the vulnerabilities. But you still need the patches because they're just going to find they're going to find another way to compromise you. If you don't patch it, you can remove the threat, but if you don't patch the vulnerability, they'll be back. So hopefully they put them on notice. Hopefully it's like Project Zero. Like if you don't fix this, we're gonna disclose who you are, because we came in there. We already gave you, I guess, an extension on your on the threat. But
I think if
I
the
don't
FBI
know.
was, I think if the FBI was to do that, that would break the story because companies would be coming out saying, "Hey, we feel threatened by the federal government at this point." You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, that's true.
they would.
Google get away with it, but FBI can't. That is very true. But yeah, I assume more will come out though. Like we found the one article was very interesting, or I should say, you found the one article was very interesting. I think in the next couple of weeks, especially if the attackers were to come back, obviously this will become bigger news. So keep our eye out on it. I'm sure it'll develop into something else over the next couple weeks, whether it be good or bad. But with that being said, I think that brings us to the natural inclusions episode. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, LeVon. It was a really good one. Very, or like I said, Orwellian. Like you know, Big Brother is watching. He's in there, and he's a superhero though, right? He's removing your vulnerabilities. Now it's up to you to patch them, in hopefully the near future. So with that being said, please hit us up at www.theothersideofthefirewall.com. You can also get to our YouTube, our various podcasting platforms, IG, and Twitch. You can hit me up at RyRy Security Guy. That's RYRY Security Guy. I'm on LinkedIn, Clubhouse, Twitch, or not Twitch. I keep saying Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram. And you, LeVon?
You hit me up on the Twitters at LeVon Maynard.
There it is. Y'all be easy.
Take care.